If you've ever been to Boston or any other city in Massachusetts, you might have noticed these red strobe lights outside of buildings. You might have assumed that they were for fire alarm use, which is correct, but you might have wondered why they're there and what their purpose is. In today's video, we'll be talking about why these red strobe lights are pretty much on every building with a fire alarm system in Massachusetts. I'm sure many of you have heard of outdoor notification appliances. These devices are fire alarm signals that are mounted outside of buildings or in exterior areas, and their purpose is to alert people who are in the building or outside of the building that there's an emergency in the building and that they have to take action. These devices could be horns, strobes, horn strobes, speakers, speaker strobes, basically any device that's mounted outside in order to actually alert people to the presence of an emergency. These devices are usually mounted in outdoor areas where people gather, like for example, a really common area for these would be outdoor patios for restaurants where people might be sitting and you want to alert them that there's a fire in the building, or maybe a courtyard where you want people to exit the courtyard if there's a fire emergency. Basically anywhere outside of a building where people are that you need to alert. On the other hand, you'll see these red fire strobes right outside of buildings in areas where you wouldn't need to alert any occupants. For example, you'll see these right at the street level, maybe facing a sidewalk, which really begs the question, what are these things for? They're clearly not alerting anybody because no one's, really standing on the sidewalk that needs to evacuate. So why are they here? The simple answer is these devices are not intended to alert anybody to the presence of an emergency. Rather, they're used to indicate that a fire alarm system has activated in the building. When a fire department is responding to a fire alarm activation, they're just given the address and they're really looking for the address when they're going down the street. In an emergency, when seconds count though, they're not really going to have the time to just look very closely at every address, especially since in a lot of cases addresses are obscured. So when they see that red strobe flashing on a building, it's a very easy and very obvious visual indicator that there's an emergency in that particular building, and that is the building that they need to respond to. In some cases, it might be obvious which building the fire alarm is going off in, but in cases where buildings are attached to each other or when they're densely packed, it's really important to be able to see which building the fire alarm is going off in at a glance. In this case, you can see that this is a strip mall where each store has its own fire alarm system, and each store has its own fire alarm indicator outside. If the fire alarm system in one store goes off, the entire plaza is going to go off because, of course, since these buildings are all attached, if there's a fire in one store, then there's a threat to the safety of every other store since they are all touching each other. But this means that if the fire alarm in one store goes off and then the entire building is now going off, the fire department that's responding has no idea which store the fire alarm originated in. If you don't have these strobes outside, the fire department would have to go to the main panel of the whole plaza or whatever and then figure out where the alarm is and then go to the source of the alarm. If you have these strobes outside of a building, you can easily see exactly which store the alarm came from. In some cases, normal notification appliances are used as indicators. You can see here's a red Spectra Alert Advanced strobe. It has a red lens cover on it, and it's used as an indicator outside of this building. In some cases, white strobes are also used as indicators, but generally red beacon strobes are the standard here. There's 4 beacon strobes that are the most common here. The first one is this Amsico style, so this is the SL-5, but it looks like this. These are really, really common. My school has these, and they're just 24-volt strobes. They have red lenses. Sometimes they have white lenses, but they look like this. Another common style is the Tomar micro strobe. So this right here is a smaller strobe light. Really, really common. These things are absolutely everywhere, but what they are is a very distinct strobe light with this black base. They all say micro strobe on them. I think the most common style is the 1280, which is the 12 to 80 volt DC version right here, but these are absolutely everywhere, like I said. Another really common type is the Edwards adaptive beacon. So this actually looks kind of similar to the micro strobe because it is a smaller strobe light, but you can see it has a similar black base. The lens is a little more round and it's a little shorter, but again, it does the exact same thing. And then the final style is this slightly larger version. I have no idea what the model of this is. I have no idea what the brand is. There might be more than one manufacturer of this style, but this is basically the really large strobe lights. They have a black base, and these are also really, really common. So here's a fire alarm going off at a Cane's. You can see that the strobe is flashing. It might not appear on camera, but it was flashing. This is kind of the whole purpose of these. Like I've been saying, it indicates that an alarm is active in the building. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you learned something about these peculiar red strobes in Massachusetts. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.